that kind of support. He just gave me the money, never bothered to ask how much did I spend, where did I spend. जब first time उसको उड़ाने की कोशिश करी तो कुछ हो ही ना फिर suddenly I had no money of my own to invest behind my ideas, and that same prototype I was able to showcase to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Azad in the Tech Fest in that year.
Which started with 3 friends at IIT Bombay in 2007. Recently, it had a bumper IPO where it nearly doubled the IPO investors' wealth by 94%.
That kind of learning that we had was very different. It was really wild. It was not constrained by what's possible. It was constrained by what we want to make possible. It is bought more for the fun of it than for the utility of it. The fact that our customers have used our products more than 400,000 times.
Which was the most challenging decision for you?
And one of the first systems was actually bought by a state police force. I think if it was not for IIT Bombay, it would not have been the same journey. I went to one of my faculty and I said that I want to make a certain device. Can you give me money?
What's your craziest memory of IIT Bombay?
It chopped all the wires with a mirror finish. आप अपना चेहरा देख सकते हो, तार में इतनी चमक थी, डर गए थे हम लोग. उसको मतलब बॉडी पे ऐसे बैग की तरह लटका के लेके जा रहे हैं. We saw one situation where they put it in a gunny bag and they were taking it. People flying drones in the shape of Hanuman. And
You manufactured it indigenously in India for the first time, and how has it evolved? What's the current technology that you're using?
money or price is not the issue. The issue is that whether it is getting the job done in a profitable manner or not. कुछ नया होना चाहिए. That's what we've done over the last few years. Performance, reliability and autonomy has been the cornerstone of our innovation.
Greetings everyone. Today I'm very excited to host the founder and CEO of Ideaforge, which started with 3 friends at IIT Bombay in 2007. Recently, it had a bumper IPO where it nearly doubled the IPO investors' wealth by 94%. It's an indigenous drone company, which is India's first company to crack the VTOL technology, which is vertical takeoff and landing technology. I'm super excited for this conversation because there are only a couple of startups which started during college days, like Ether, like InShots, and of course Ideaforge. And building hardware is tough. I know because I'm very passionate about drones. So we used to build ornithopters, which are, biomimicry inspired drones. और बनाते, I have so many marks on my hands. इतनी बार लगती है. And then there is lot of stuff you have to handle with the administration, you have to handle with the government, the customers.
Absolutely.
और आप टेक्नोलॉजी बनाते हो पता चलता है उसका फ्लाइंग स्पैन तो 3 मिनट का ही 3 मिनट में बैटरी खराब हो जाती है और बैटरी यूज if you want to use bigger MAH, आपका पूरा calculation बिगड़ जाता है. But before starting to Ideaforge journey, tell us what's your craziest memory of IIT Bombay during our early days?
Craziest memory. So जब हम लोग हमारा पहला ड्रोन का प्रोटोटाइप बना रहे थे तो उस समय हॉबी मार्केट में भी काउंटर रोटेटिंग प्रोपेलर्स नहीं मिलते थे. तो पर्टिकुलरली जो वर्टिकल टेक ऑफ के लिए सूटेबल हो तो वो मिलते नहीं थे. तो हमें बहुत मुश्किल हुई प्रोपेलर्स ढूंढने के लिए हमारे इस पूरे प्रोजेक्ट के लिए. तो हमें रियलाइज़ हुआ कि हमें तो मिलने वाले नहीं हैं तो खुद ही बनाने पड़ेंगे. तो अब खुद अगर प्रोपेलर्स बनाने हैं तो कैसे बनाएंगे. तो उस समय एक बहुत ही क्रूड आइडिया आया था कि हम लोग हब्स बनाएंगे और कार्बन स्टील स्प्रिंग स्टील को कट करेंगे और उससे प्रोपेलर का ब्लेड बनाएंगे. क्योंकि मुझे स्प्रिंग्स के साथ काम करने का थोड़ा आइडिया था तो मुझे पता था कि दैट विल बी द मोस्ट
Efficient.
It will remain flat. Like all we could do was take a flat blade and rotate it, right? So it will remain flat. तो वो कॉन्सेप्ट था. तो लिटरली पतला कार्बन स्टील का आप इमेजिन करो लेज़र कट करके हमने ब्लेड बनाया है बहुत प्रिसाइसली और उसको फिर एल्यूमिनियम के हब्स बनाए थे मैंने हाथ से खुद मशीन करके उन पे डाल के उसको पूरा बैलेंस करके आई हैड मेड दोस प्रोपेलर्स ऑफ द फर्स्ट क्वाडकॉप्टर वी हैड बिल्ट. तो उसको हमने एक बहुत ही सुंदर से क्रॉस फ्रेम पे एक मेटल एल्यूमिनियम का फ्रेम बना के मोटर्स माउंट करके डाला. एंड एज इज़ यूजुअल फॉर अ यंग इंजीनियर बहुत ज़्यादा प्लानिंग तो इससे इतनी प्लानिंग कर ली उसके आगे सोचा नहीं. तो उस पर बैटरी कैसे लगाएंगे, उस पर मोटर ड्राइवर्स कैसे लगाएंगे, कुछ नहीं सोचा. तो लिटरली उसको बाद में जब आफ्टर थॉट की तरह उसको डालना था, तो जल्दी जल्दी में लिटरली एक पॉलीथीन में हमने बैटरी, मोटर ड्राइवर, मिक्सर्स वगैरह सब डाल दिए और हाथ में एक रिमोट ले लिया. तो जब फर्स्ट टाइम उसको उड़ाने की कोशिश करी तो कुछ हो ही ना. एंड हम लिटरली वी वर स्टैंडिंग अबाउट 2 meters away from it, not more than that. And this guy is sitting here and it's not reacting. We are thinking कि शायद गड़बड़ होगी, हमने सब कुछ बहुत वियर्ड तरह से जोड़ रखा है, एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा, लेकिन चल ही नहीं रहा वो. एंड फिर सडनली स्टिक पे फुल थ्रॉटल किया एंड एक प्रोपेलर चला और वो इतना खतरनाक रूप से उड़ा ऊपर. इतना पावरफुल बनाया था हम लोगों ने, ओवर इंजीनियर था वो. तो वो उड़ा और पलटी मार के नीचे गिर गया पूरा, एक ही प्रॉप घूम के. और फिर जिस बेरहमी से उसने सारे वायर्स और जो काटे, मतलब इमेजिन कार्बन स्टील and imagine it rotating at close to 3000-4000 rpm,
and then smashing.
It chopped all the wires with a mirror finish. Like आप अपना चेहरा देख सकते हो, तार में इतनी चमक थी कट में. डर गए थे हम लोग. ऐसा लग रहा था कि गलती से भी अगर ये एक्चुअली उड़ गया होता तो गड़बड़ हो जाती. So that's how our journey to making drones started.
And how did college support it? You have thanked in your when you were giving IPO, you thanked the folks at IIT Bombay, your professor who said कि the experience will stay with you. How do you think? Because आज में college में there are a lot of hindrances. जैसे government सरकारी उसके लिए तरह से चलता है. But what were things that gave you enough confidence? What did your alma mater do in order to support your pursuit?
No, it's a very fascinating journey, and I think if it was not for IIT Bombay, it would not have been the same journey, because in my second year, I went to one of my faculty and I said that I want to make a certain device. Can you give me money? I had no money of my own to invest behind my ideas. And he said, okay, I'll take the money out from one of my projects and I'll give it to you. So just that gesture of, doing that and giving me money to make my idea. I remember I took 3,000 rupees from him. And I gave 1,500 back after building my prototype. And that same prototype I was able to showcase to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Azad in the Tech Fest in that year. So that kind of support, he just gave me the money, never bothered to ask how much did I spend, where did I spend. Prototype मैं बना के खुद ले जाके दिखाता था. And then I would return the money on my own. But there was no interference from his perspective कि इसमें कुछ कंट्रोल करना है या कुछ करना है. Same was the case when, as I went from one project to another, from Professor Seshu, who gave me my first 3,000 rupees to make something, to Professor Amarnath, who would have helped us get more than maybe a few lakh rupees for a project, because we had started to tie up with an innovation cell that were formed at IIT Bombay. One of our alma mater had, one of our alumni had given money to IIT Bombay to invest behind people's funny ideas. So that's the way it used to work. But IIT Bombay faculty would never be involved in build phase, like in the ideation phase. They would basically just be present to show confidence. That's all. And that is a stark difference. And all the mistakes were ours and all the learning was ours.
Right.
It was not second hand. And we used to see when we used to go to competitions, if the institute was investing money in building a machine, then faculty was very closely involved in all the decision making. So that kind of learning that we had was very different. It was really wild. It was not constrained by what's possible. It was constrained by what we want to make possible. So that was something which was very, very exciting for us.
And at one point in time, we had close to 50% market share in a particular segment. But tell us, how did you crack the first product and how did you figure the first customer? Who was your first customer?
So what happened in 2008 after the Mumbai attacks, we saw that the naval helicopters were trying to look into the third and fourth floor of the Taj Hotel. Until then, we were just having fun with the quadcopter technology.
This is 2008.
2008. The attacks happened in 2008, right? So we essentially decided that all the fun that we were having with the technology, maybe it's worth building a product for our forces using that. Because in that situation, instead of a helicopter trying to do that job, maybe a drone could have done a more stealthy job at the same outcome. So that's the vision with which we started. We said that we will build it for our forces, and we will build the best performing drones that we can build and technology can allow us to build as far as this segment is concerned. So we took all the fun we were having, built a product, pitched it for a few events, exhibitions, and as an outcome of some of those exhibitions, we were invited to actually give demonstrations. As we gave demonstrations, we were able to the government. So as we gave demonstrations, we were able to progressively get opportunities built to buy that system. And one of the first systems was actually bought by a state police force in India.
Then how did you develop the flywheel of the customers? So once you have cracked the state government thing, how many drones did they ask you?
No, it was just one drone at that point in time. So that's how it began.
And how did you figure out किसको कितने में बेचेंगे, इसको कैसे करेंगे? How did you figure the business model?
For us, I think it was very critical that we essentially earn enough money that we can build 2 more prototypes and we get 2 more products from the money that we get, and we are also able to sustain development of the technology. Because we were quite aware that it's not going to be easy to scale this opportunity. It's a very slow moving beast. So we need to, every time we sell, make enough that we can sustain doing this for the long term for the same users who are buying this, right? There wasn't that kind of focus that we will essentially suddenly be very that I'll give it for free or I'll give it, because we didn't have any money of our own, or we did not have large investments. None of that was there with us. So uske liye we had to price it in a way that we could survive, and we had to build a product that was worth that price. It was slightly reverse a problem. And then we were also acutely aware that the only way customers will adopt the technology if it is delivering them benefits, right? But often, as it happens with a new technology, it is bought more for the fun of it than for the utility of it. And that's what was happening with our systems. Many of our customers would take the drones and they would use it like party wear.
Are you talking about the government also?
Yeah, of course. So a VIP would come, they would take out and show that, oh, we have a drone, but then they would never really use it in their operations.
Yes, I've seen videos of district magistrate just using that drone technology, but at the end उनको लोगों को उनकी टीम को पता ही नहीं कि चलाना कैसे है.
Exactly.
डर लगता है. टीम सिखा के भी जाती है लेकिन वो डरते हैं. तो इसे जब कोई आता है, कोई मिनिस्टर आता है, उनको दिखा देते हैं कि सर देखो ड्रोन ऐसे होता है, लेकिन there is no use, you don't see them flying.
Correct. So that's the trend that we wanted to break. So we had started to see that happening. So we went to our customer and we told them that, if you look at any campus, you would have a lot of patrolling happening by security there, right? It's not that every time the security goes and moves around the campus, they are able to catch somebody. The objective of that patrol is not to catch, it is to prevent.
Right.
So you don't know whether because of the patrol, the crime is getting prevented or what is the correlation between the two, right? So therefore, a drone is also of the same nature. Like every time you fly it, you're not going to see some kind of magic happening or you're not going to catch people every time. But its presence and people's knowledge that it's present can change behaviors.
Right.
And then it becomes a part of that infrastructure.
Just like a camera, CCTV.
Just like a CCTV camera. That दिखा होता है ना बोर्ड पे ये area CCTV.
You're in this.
So you fix your behavior accordingly, right? So it's very similar to that. So that's how we perceived the technology, that it has to be used. So we went to our customers, we told them, please use it. And if anything happens to the technology, all your fear, I'm willing to take whatever blame is needed, whatever I need to do to fix your systems, I will do it. But please use it. And we went through a period of a lot of pain, not just because there were challenges with the product. A product, if it gets used, only then you will see its issues, right? Otherwise, how do you see its issues? नहीं use करे product तो perfect ही है, वो तो perfect है, उनमें कोई problem ही नहीं है. तो we took that pain, as well as we also uncovered so many different behaviors that users have. Like, for example, they would break the system on purpose because they had incentive to get out of operational deployments because that's safer.
And these are government claims.
Of course.
Right. Of course.
तो लोग वो भी करते हैं आपके सिस्टम के साथ में. So you have to start understanding what are the various nuances that lead to genuine adoption on ground. So we did a few steps, and those steps led to that same customer who was using it as party wear start using it like office wear. Every time they go out of their camp, they would first fly a drone, see if there is any threat lingering, and then they would go out and venture. So that behavioral change from using it once in 10 months to using it 10 times in a day is the transition that we have enabled. And because that transition happened, obviously they will see some successes. And that success then propels them to want to deploy it to their full scale. Ultimately, जब तक टेक्नोलॉजी पूरी पेनिट्रेट नहीं होगी तब तक पता नहीं चलेगा आपको कि क्या उसका बेनिफिट है या नहीं. So that's what the game is all about. Like, how do you make the customer use it effectively? And then that use leads to more demand, and that leads to growth.
It's very easy to say, you feel proud in saying that, we sell it to the Indian government. But at the end, because of the country retipism, it's very hard to, work with the government, the payment cycle and stuff. What was the crack? How did you figure out what's the right way to have a business with the government?
So what I have experienced is that users are usually extremely keen on getting the technology. The people who are on the ground, they're facing the threats that they are facing, and therefore anything that can promise to mitigate those threats can be useful, right? So we've never found users lacking in their intent to procure systems. It is often the procurement system and the method of using public money that becomes a bigger challenge and a bigger roadblock to them. To getting to perfecting that process is what is the whole time consumption and delay. And therefore, one, you have to understand that there is a method to that madness. And second, you have to build the ability to survive in the absence of a closure every 2 days or every 5 days, or every time you show something, it won't convert, because the proper process has to be followed in acquiring it. So it's just a different kind of expectation that you have with the user, that you bake into the model, and you price the systems, you build the ecosystem in a way that can help you survive that model. It's not going to be that we stay with the mindset of a consumer business and expect the government or any other customer to behave in that same fashion if they are not of the same nature. Like, they operate out of budgets, they operate out of their procurement processes rather than working out of. So even if there is a lot of intent, which we've never found lacking, the process takes a toll on you, and everyone is complaining basically about the process.
And have you figured a crack for the process?
There is no crack for the process. It's just become more efficient now. Just like in enterprises, you will have, some enterprises paying you on time, some paying you, before time, and some paying you after the time. It is the same case with the government. I do not see a lot of difference between those two perspectives per se.
Help us understand the technology part. How have you created, and also help us understand, is technology the only mode Ideaforge has? Has it created other modes? And also walk us through the first technology, vertical takeoff and landing one, which you patented, and you manufactured it indigenously in India for the first time. And how has it evolved? What's the current technology that you're using, and how have you created modes around technology and beyond technology?
It's a very interesting domain where that virtuous cycle of experience keeps adding. Just like, you hear for the largest corporations of the world, with the amount of data that they see, they can do far more than anybody else. And the pace at which they are growing and the pace at which they are collecting data, it will take a long time for people to collect that data, right? In a very similar way, the fact that our customers have used our products more than 400,000 times, the fact that they are using our systems almost every 5 minutes, an Ideaforge drone takes off. When you have so much use happening in the environment that we have in our country, where something is operating at 6,000 meters plus takeoff at minus 30 degrees, to operating at plus 55 degrees in the desert, to operating in the marine environment, you have a very, very large experience that has seen more corner cases than anybody else in so far as how physics and technology and environment behave. That experience is what goes into building a proprietary stack of technology that fixes not just the regular, usual, obvious use issues, but the edge cases also.
Give us an example of certain, very interesting edge case जो आपने सोचा ही नहीं था, and where after deployment you got to know, यार ये तो गजब का edge case है, which shook you, यार ये कैसे solve करेंगे?
ऐसे तो बहुत होते हैं. For example, it's really funny because we've been building this for a very long time. Communication systems have the RF ecosystem around us has changed quite a bit because you have mobiles coming, we have 2G, 4G, 3G सब आ रहा है. तो because इतने सारे different frequencies आ रही हैं, तो interference भी environment में बढ़ रहा है.
Lot of noise.
तो वन फाइन डे यू सी कि सरकार ने एक डिसीजन लिया है कि भाई ये आएगा. सेकेंड डे द टावर्स कम अप. द मोमेंट द टावर्स कम अप यू सडनली रियलाइज कि यार जो सिस्टम 5 किलोमीटर जा रहा था वो एक भी नहीं जा रहा है. तो दैट काइंड ऑफ इम्पैक्ट इज विजिबल ऑन ग्राउंड. देन यू हैव टू डू व्हाट इट टेक्स टू फिक्स दैट एंड देन अगेन कम बैक एंड mitigate that problem and then keep solving for that. How do you solve for scenarios where sometimes you do not have that kind of robustness in linkage? How do you fix that problem? How do you get data from the field when you know that the field deployment is happening in a remote area where maybe connectivity is not going to be there? Even if it's going to be there, more likely 5G नहीं पहुंचा होगा वहाँ पे या 4G नहीं पहुंचा होगा. So how do you then still get data back? A lot of that solution we have to build. For example, a lot of our customers had a very funny habit initially. They would discard the bags we gave with the drone, और उसको literally one customer, we had seen examples where he put a rope around the neck of the drone, around the motor of the drone and just tied the whole drone around his body and was walking with it without उसको मतलब body पे ऐसे बैग की तरह लटका के लेके जा रहे हैं. We saw one situation where they put it in a gunny bag and they were taking it. So you start experiencing corner cases like it's nobody's business because you see corner cases of human handling, you see corner cases of environmental situations जहाँ पे extreme winds आ जाती हैं, drone pushback हो जाता है, फिर भी 20 मिनट बाद वापस आके लैंड कर जाता है. तो ये कई सारी चीज़ें आपको एक्सपीरियंस करके ही पता चलती हैं कि these are not trivial issues. जो आपको लगता है ये कॉर्नर केस है वो एक्चुअली हर कॉर्नर पे मिल जाता है. So that becomes a challenge. So a lot of those kind of learnings keep adding to the logic that you build into the system that then prevents those situations from happening.
The closest use case for a drone, not for the industry but for us, is let's say drone delivery. And DGC gave approvals to some companies like Zomato कि आप start करो drone delivery, pilot करो. But what are some interesting use cases which may not necessarily be there right now, but I don't think कि future में ऐसा हो सकता है.
For example, there are some companies who are working on flying a drone inside a underground mine. There are some companies who are saying कि I'll take a drone and I'll put in the drainage system.
Right.
And I will inspect using drone के अंदर क्या हो रहा है. So areas which people had never imagined in the past, all of those areas are also getting investigated using drones. Any work at height situation, people are thinking कि हम टावर के अंदर घुस के टावर को मैप करेंगे. So a lot of crazy stuff is happening. You saw one drone where if you have a security alert in the house, the drone will take off inside the house and it will navigate. There are people who are doing things like doing warehouse inspections using drones. So drones are increasingly being used for the funniest and the craziest pieces, with people flying drones in the shape of Hanuman and all of that is happening, right? So everything is happening as far as drone use is concerned, and I think we're still not scratched the surface. People are using it for adventure sports. So large number of applications where these guys are getting deployed at this time.
How far do you think we are from having a drone taxi? Because we have seen it's in US. But what's the technical challenge? मतलब we know कि it's possible for us to have a drone taxi. But what are some challenges? How far do you think it will actually happen?
In my view, it will take potentially between 5 to 10 years for this to become mainstream, because certification is a very big challenge. When you suddenly have a human on board, the testing standard, the reliability standard you have to adhere to is significantly higher. And therefore, in order to essentially mitigate that, you have to take a lot of steps to make it that reliable, because you also want to make it as autonomous as possible. Otherwise, it won't make too much sense for building it, right? So how do you bake in autonomy? How do you certify autonomy? How do you certify the reliability of the product such that it can take those passengers and drive? So that bar to qualify is an exponentially high bar. Therefore, you will see that it will take time for people to certify their systems to be airworthy. And then once those airworthiness certificates are received, then using them in a way that it can be integrated in the infra that exists. Ultimately, if it has to fly within a city, then the city has to have takeoff landing infra.
Right.
The city has to have a lot of traffic management solutions around how this is going to be operated. You have to make sure that the noise is not so much that it can be annoying to citizens, etc. So a lot of those things have to be worked out as far as this process is concerned. But it's well on its way to getting done. Like some people will get certification within the next year or so. Some people will get certification subsequently. But for it to become anywhere reasonable bet to say it will become mainstream, it will likely take at least 5 years to have a sustained service running, not at least, but around 5 years.
So help me understand, there are a lot of folks in their colleges who are, trying to build things around drone and, drone technology and drone infrastructure. What are some clear-cut white spaces that you believe that young people should capitalize on, which is around drone technology and nobody is, looking at them right now? Or maybe if they're looking at, there is a huge white space, less work is happening.
Honestly, we will be hard-pressed to find those corner cases because including creating technology to have multiple drones come and stick together in air, to changing battery in the air. आप जो सोच रहे हैं लोग बहुत कुछ, like there is some research happening where somebody is trying to make a drone with bird-like feet, so that it can perch on a branch and fly. So there is a lot of crazy research happening. You yourself worked on ornithopters, right? So research and development is happening in a lot of places. What will become mainstream is largely going to be something that overcomes the hurdle of being ROI positive. So return on investment निकलना चाहिए, right? I mean, just for the fun of the technology, there's going to be very little merit.
आप 10 लाख करोड़ बना दोगे, मैं कैसे खरीदूंगा?
Correct. And आपको भी काम होना चाहिए 10 लाख के जितना उससे, तब जाके आप खरीदेंगे. खरीद तो आप लेंगे लेकिन काम होना चाहिए, राइट? और वो काम करते हुए आपका रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट बेटर होना चाहिए. सो दैट money or price is not the issue. The issue is that whether it is getting the job done in a profitable manner or not, irrespective of the price. Ultimately, the job will have to be that much more important for you to buy an expensive drone to do it, but hopefully that will be worth it, right? So that ways, that determination is not as challenging. But what is critical is that anybody who's trying to get into the space has to genuinely articulate how is what they're working on differentiated. And how is it serving a large enough market? And why will they not obviously get disrupted if the incumbents are going to get into it? ये तो कुछ 2-3 बहुत ही obvious से questions हैं जिनको आंसर करना पड़ेगा comprehensively. Otherwise it is just आपने 10 में बेचा, सामने वाले ने बोलेगा कि मैं 9 में बेच दूंगा, बना तो मैं कुछ नया नहीं रहा हूँ, और फिर उसके बगल वाला आएगा वो बोलेगा मैं तो 8 में बेच दूंगा, उसके बगल वाला आएगा. तो इनोवेशन कैनॉट बी कि मैंने प्राइस गिरा दी. Innovation has to be that I delivered value, like maybe प्रोडक्शन में कोई इनोवेशन हो गया, किसी भी चीज़ में इनोवेशन हो सकता है आज की तारीख, बट होना चाहिए कुछ नया होना चाहिए जिससे कि एक मीनिंगफुल वे में मार्केट शिफ्ट करता है, रादर देन एवरीबडी गोइंग एंड सेइंग कि आई विल जस्ट डू अ प्राइस वॉर एंड देन नॉट बी एबल टू गेट इनफ मनी टू बिल्ड टेक्नोलॉजी. एक बार बना भी लेंगे तो दूसरी बार नहीं बना पाएंगे क्योंकि हमने पैसे ही नहीं लिए उसको सर्वाइव करने के लिए, राइट? सो दैट्स हाउ वी हैव टू थिंक अबाउट इट.
How have you walk us through some innovations that you have created in Ideaforge over the years? Why do you think vertical takeoff or landing was you pioneered that in India, right?
So we started off with that, and we also made some regular aircraft type of drones. We realized that whoever we gave those aircraft type of drones to, they were not able to use them as frequently. Because it's very hard to find that kind of clear airspace to take off and land from and stuff like that. Because of which we realized that when the customers were trying to buy far more number of those kind of drones, we said that I think that's not the right product. We think we should build a product that can do vertical takeoff and then do a mission like a regular aircraft and then land again like a vertical. So there was a competition where we showcased it for the first time. And people were given a 75 meter by 75 meter grid to take off and land from. 75% of the times people would land outside it with a regular fixed wing aircraft, and we would take off and land from a 5 meter by 5 meter patch. So that's the kind of difference we were able to create. And we still made the lightest platform in that competition. Making a very high performance platform and doing it with technology that is going to be relevant for our environment, our overall scenario, is going to be something which is very critical for us. So VTOL was that way is the most versatile option to build upon. And that's what we did. Then, of course, there are many other use cases where we've innovated. For example, one of the areas where we've done innovation is we made a backpack. So innovation is not just in the drone itself, but we realized that when people are going to carry this in the field, how can we make their life easy in setting up the system, etc. So we innovated it in a way that when you open the packaging, you can assemble the system while it is still sitting in the packaging and not needing to hold it in your hand, etc., while you're assembling it. And then you can simply flip it and it'll be ready for operations. So that is one innovation we did in the packaging. That same box, we also put the control station equipment inside. So you could take out the control station equipment, hook it onto that bag itself, close the bag lid, and sit on the bag and operate. So it becomes like a proper workbench, which also has a carrying strap, which also has drag along wheels. So very innovative packaging that is also IP66, which means that you can wade through water using that bag. Right? You could use it as a life-saving device if need be. So that's the kind of innovation we do, like thinking deeply about how to make the user's life better, how to increase the performance in the systems that we deliver, how to make them more reliable, and how to increase autonomy of the user's journey in experience in flying the system so that they can focus on the job on hand. That's what we've done over the last few years. Performance, reliability, and autonomy has been the cornerstone of our innovation.
So, multiple challenges you mentioned. Starting May, the routers were not available. You had to build that in India. Then, selling to the government, figuring out the hardware, figuring out the technology. What was some strategic decision around that particular challenge that came? And later, in the hindsight, you realize that this was the, major decision that could, that shaped the trajectory of Ideaforge. Which was the most challenging decision for you?
There are a lot of decisions, and I'll probably move away from technology and let's say talk about a more financial decision. I come from a background where I was clearly told that debt is equal to death. So I had to take that mindset and then face a situation where there was no money.
And you had to go for that.
And the only way to survive was to take debt. So that process of converting that statement into something powerful in terms of creating or not letting a scenario of death happen, because death happens for a reason when people take debt. Making sure that it does not happen for those reasons that can cause it, and make your own guidelines of how to and when to take debt is what helped the business survive for many years in between. And that is something which was very challenging for us to achieve, because the mindset was, it's very scary mindset when you owe somebody some money, right? So wo mindset ki I have to return capital was something which was a difficult challenge to digest, and to change the mindset, particularly coming from that extreme fear for that, is something where we had to take a lot of mental shifts. And then it did happen and it helped us survive. And progressively we were able to do it in a way that was far more conducive for a business to sustain that activity.
When was it when you realized that this is the right time for doing the IPO? And why did you choose to go for an IPO when you had other opportunities for secondary market fundraising and stuff like that?
So we were trying to chart out what will it take for us to get to 2030 and be a relevant business and a relevant opportunity at 2030, right? So if we were to chart out the future of the technology and future of where this business will be, then are we doing enough today to be relevant for that time?
Right.
And that very clearly told us that we need to ensure that we are essentially capitalized well enough to do those things that we need to do and start doing today, so that we can get to 2030 in the right way. So that need for capital was there. Using that need for capital to essentially create a environment where we are able to raise capital from the right sources that helps unlock the value of all the stakeholders who were involved in the past, as well as we get it from a place where we can ultimately realize the long-term journey that we want to chart for ourselves as a part of the company. So that ways, that decision to take money was there. This seemed to be at that point in time the best option available to us and for all our stakeholders. So we made sure that we take them.
And when you say you have to do things which will make you relevant for the future, what were those things that you are doing now?
For example, we have disclosed this, that we are building a much larger middle mile delivery platform that's going to be almost 2 orders of magnitude larger than our largest platform today. We are also building another platform that's likely to be an order of magnitude larger than our largest platform today. So 2 larger platforms that can enable, for example, some portion deliveries, in some portions do surveillance and mapping missions for a much longer period of time. So various use cases that we believe were going to scale going forward and needed interventions that were meaningful today is what we are trying to target and go after. Then of course we are doing drone as a service and many other.
If you have to predict one thing about future, and this future can be related to India, drone, technology, or the world, what that prediction would be? How are you envisaging the future to be? Because this is watched by a lot of young folks and they are entering to the next decade. And if you have to make some prediction about the future, what those are going to be?
A lot of times, in my view, and I'll sort of keep it a fairly narrow prediction at this point in time, which is more related to our own field. Presently, a lot of people think of drones as extraneous to their security or governance infrastructure. But that future is going to change going forward. In going forward, you will find that drones are essentially nothing but
a part of
similar to your X-ray machine in a security focused establishment, or they are part of your CCTV network that is also doing workplace behavior enforcement rather than merely just being a security equipment. So it becomes a part of your governance infrastructure. You don't ask in many cases why is there a X-ray machine now to do your baggage scanning, right? A bag scanner is there by default. Why? Because it's part of that infra. It's part of how security is maintained and a deterrence is created. It's the same way how drones are going to be used in the future.
Also, you recently turned, public. Are there any differences that you have figured, personally? Because while you're not liable to, the India, their shareholders, there are only few investors that you're liable to. A lot of things you can keep inside the company. What are differences on the fundamental level that you have personally observed, on yourself after getting public? What has been the learning?
I think learning largely has been that, we are trying to understand how is it that a market determines value for any business. I think that's the main part of that journey that we are still discovering. We're still trying to figure out if there is a method to this, this outcome. So I think that is one part of what we are trying to still understand. But in terms of overall looking at our mindset and behavior, I would say that not too much has changed from the point of view of what made sense for doing in the business previously. It continues to make sense because what we were always focused on is that how do we build intrinsic value of the business so that the external fluctuations don't affect the core value of the business. So that's what we've continued to do all through, and we continue to do that even today.
And is this something that you believe the market doesn't understand about your business?
I think market is very, very freshly exposed to our kind of business.
It's the first drone company to be listed. Yeah.
So I would not say that the market does not understand. We are hoping that as we continue to communicate and grow, we are able to, create that impression that allows the market to look at us and companies like ours in the right way. There's a big difference between looking at a business as a manufacturing business, which is probably at times doing build to print, or they are doing a TOT based development, versus a business that is building its own intellectual property and creating products. That is something which is not as common in our environment, and therefore it will take time for people to sort of look beyond the capacity numbers or certain other numbers. So that's something which is going to take its own sweet time.
A couple of rapid fire questions where you have to quickly answer, so don't take much time in this. We all see that you are the sum of 5 people that you surround yourself with. Tell us, if you were 22 again, who those 5 people will be in your life you would consciously like to surround yourself with?
I think I won't change a thing. I have my team with me. I have my my family with me.
Right.
I wouldn't change a thing. I would have the same people, the same guys be with me and continue to do things the right way for the right reasons.
And who are those people, 5 people that have shaped you as a personality, as Ankit? Who you are today?
I think my parents have a huge role in that. The way they nurtured our ambition, the way they built our ability to do things despite the grade of resources we had on our hands. I think that has a huge role. My faculty at IIT Bombay, I had mentioned to you how not just from the point of view of supporting our wacky ideas, but also from the point of view of giving us the right perspective that winning is not everything.
Experience.
Learning is. I think that was something which was very, very critical. To a lot of my friends who have shown what friendship means in that broad sense, because over the years these people have never been judgmental about our status or stature, and they've continued to have faith in us and the fact that good things will happen if we are surviving, right? Or we are surviving because it's possible to survive doing this. I think a lot of that gives you a lot of internal comfort and resilience to sustain the kind of vagaries a business throws at you. So a lot of comfort is taken, and then their ambitions and their success fuels your ambition and your own mindset and growth. So I think a lot of these people have been very, very close to our heart over the years.
Do you remember the first day when you met your co-founders, Rahul, Ashish, Vipul? When did you meet them for the first time? Day?
So I used to do this workshop because I was 2 years their senior, and I had done a lot of hands-on work by then, robotic competitions, etc., etc. So I used to do this workshop where I used to encourage people in campus to come up with wacky ideas so that the innovation cell could fund it.
Right.
So as an aside of that is when I met, on the sidelines of that is when I met Rahul for the first time, and he said, I want to make a hovercraft and float it in the Powai Lake. So that's when that happened. And then Ashish I met, he had attended one of my workshops, but I was trying to take part in a competition, and in that competition we needed electronics support, and I'm a mechanical engineer and I had no clue how to build anything electronics. In fact, we tried to attempt to build an autonomous mechanical robot in my first attempt in that competition. In the second attempt, I couldn't do that. So therefore, I brought on board, wanted to get somebody on board, and everyone recommended Ashish. So I went and I spoke to him, and we instantly hit it off, like right away. So it was fun.
And you mentioned that you took a workshop on, encouraging students to, pursue wacky ideas. How do you convince someone who's watching this to go and pursue some wacky idea? And do you at Ideaforge, how do you, appreciate wacky ideas?
See, I think for me, you have to spend a lot of time in the potential of an idea. I always feel that if you see problems, we are instinctive enough to think of some solutions to fix it, right? And a lot of times you have to let that solution wash over you, let that solution make you go crazy. And when that happens, when you live its potential in your mind for a reasonably long period of time, I believe that it sort of compels you to act on it. And that's what used to happen to us. We would get an idea, it would be like completely like, हमने तो दुनिया बदल दी है. And then, दुनिया बदलती है तो बदली कहाँ है? तो बदलने के लिए कुछ करना पड़ेगा. तो करते हैं, उसको बनाते हैं. So we won't sit on our ideas. That's why the name Ideaforge. Because ideas are worth nothing if they are not converted into something, right?
There will be certain things that give you real happiness apart from what you do at Ideaforge. When you feel real pleasure, joy doing those things.
Actually, the highest pleasure that I get is when I hear a story of the product being used and delivering a successful outcome for somebody. It's just pure joy. That's one joy that nobody can take away from us. Every other joy comes with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of liabilities. Even if you are raising capital, it comes with it's a liability that you have to, give returns on. If you get an order, you have to deliver it. But when your product does something for your customer, it's just pure joy, period.
And is there something that you're contrarian about? You think very differently from the people around you.
I like to encourage working on tough problems. When somebody says that ये बहुत मुश्किल है, मुझे actually अच्छा लगता है, क्योंकि आप जब मुश्किल प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने जाते हो तो, और अगर आप एकदम बेवकूफ़ नहीं हो तो आप ज़रूर समय लोगे. अगर आप समय लोगे तो दुनिया को भी समय लगेगा. इसका मतलब कि जो आप बना रहे हो, अगर वो चला तो वो ज़्यादा समय तक आपके लिए बेनिफिट देगा, ज़्यादा समय तक आपको रिटर्न्स देगा. तो हैविंग दैट पेशेंस, टेकिंग एन आइडिया एंड टू बिल्ड इट even if it is difficult, is something that I feel a lot of times it's not easy for people to get that.
What's one thing that you wish to do that you don't have time for? What's on your bucket list?
Wish to do that I don't have time for. Play a sport.
Which one?
I think now I would be happy if I were playing either football or basketball, but I used to play cricket for my college.
And do you think, is there any industry where drones play sport? Is there a drone sport kind of thing? Because there are robo-wars and stuff like that. Do you see any interesting future sport that drones will play?
Drone racing?
Apart from drone racing. Because I've seen, there have been videos, TED Talks where the drones are playing ping pong and stuff like that. Do you think some making ideas inside, do you try to mimic that?
No. No. I think at Ideaforge, we are really focused on, we have this statement. We do it for the Jawan and the Kisan via Vigyan. That's what we think about. So if we have a wacky idea, then it's for them.